First off, good morning. If you've ever felt pressure in your life, can you stand up? That's kind of what I expected. All right, thank you. I appreciate that. I want to open with that specifically because I want to address, as we say, the elephant in the room. There's no need to dance around pressure because you're going to face it if you haven't already. Maybe you just overcame it. Maybe you're heading to it. Maybe you're in it right now. And just because you smile, you're dressed nice, to me, that's just the exterior performance that we do in this world, right? There's this conditioning that we have and we're taught to be a certain type of way, but I can speak to you from pressure from so many different aspects, right? From my upbringing as a child, which to me now I see as a blessing. But if you asked me then, I would have said trauma and some other things. But I've learned in this life that everything we go through is an experience. It's all about the data if we're willing to grab it. And so coming from Iraq in combat, ironically enough, though my life was at risk, I found myself to be in a mental state that allowed me to have so much clarity in such a chaotic world. And when I came back and transitioned out of the Marine Corps, I lost that. And I couldn't figure out how that made sense. How can I be in a safe space physically, but I feel like I'm losing myself mentally? And so I had to take myself back on a journey. How did you find peace in a moment where there was no peace to be found? That's where the company pressure and stability, or my intellectual property pressure and stability came from. And I sat with this idea. I've done a lot of research to try to figure out, one, how to improve myself to overcome PTSD and a lot of these other diagnoses, right, that I was labeled with. And I wanted to understand, how do we just simplify all of this and break all modes and find a thread that connects every single person on this planet? There are three pillars that I want to talk about specifically today that I've identified to work in all spaces, at all ages, all around the world. And this isn't just theory that I'm talking to you about. This is like lived experience that I had to learn how to find the language to communicate it effectively. The first thing in that is leadership capacity or leadership capability. And the reason I talk about this, sometimes we think that doing more is the answer. That's a false assessment. Pressure amplified is only going to affect the weak point of your system the more. It doesn't make it stronger. It doesn't make it better. It doesn't make you smarter. It just means that you're putting more pressure on a system that already can't handle it. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. And to put this in a visual, if you have a car or a radiator and there's a small fracture or a leak, the more pressure you add, the more damage you cause. I found in my life that it's important to pause in those moments, to identify what you're actually facing, what you're actually going through. Learn to be presently aware where you are, because that's the only thing that matters. The only thing in the world that matters is where you are. Because what choice can I make in the future that I'm not in yet? What things can I go back in my past and change that have already occurred? And I'm not saying these things are irrelevant or they don't matter. I'm just saying to learn to gain power in a world that is feeding you information to keep you distracted, we have to clear the noise. And we have to understand what that capacity or what our capabilities are. And once we reach a state, understand that there's another mountain to climb. Life should be a continual process of evolution. I love nature, right? If you ever see me out in the wild, like just know I'm in my natural place. And the reason I love nature is because to me, it speaks the ultimate truth, undistorted, without any noise, and there's nothing really to interpret. It's just understanding from observation. In nature, a tree doesn't ask the question, how big can I grow? Every day it reaches for the sun. In life, we get clouded and we don't seek the thing that we are. We're trying to become what the world expects us to be. My challenge is that we return. So capacity and capability is less about growth to someone else, but more about fulfilling who we truly are. The next thing that I want to talk about very briefly is decision integrity. Without a clear mind, we end up making irrational decisions, and those decisions cause lasting effects that take us further from where we're trying to get. Just to go 36 years in your life, this is my age, to come back to where you should have been in the beginning. Save yourself some time by learning how to clear the noise. And then the third thing that I want to talk to you about and get ultimately clear, especially with my Marine Corps experience, is standards clarity. I had someone once challenge me and say that standards too high will push people away. Well, a system without standards naturally defaults to chaos. And if you think I'm wrong, reflect on your own life where standards weren't clear. These are the three pillars that I've identified in any area of life, in any individual, in any position you stand. Focus on the things that you were born with, because God doesn't make mistakes. Thank you for your time.